would like to call this a continuing series that we're doing, exposing the NATO left. See, we do this once a week because I have so much funk for these people. They try. Of course, I have funk for these people. Of course, I have hatred for these people. They take an ideology that I strongly believe in: socialism, progressivism. And they are trying to tie it to Nazism and being pro-war. Of course I'll be upset at that. Why is there not more anger at that? They trying to take our shit. They trying to take our terms and turn it into a pro-war ideology. So yes, I have smoke for the NATO left more than almost anyone else. Look at what Lula is saying about the Ukraine war. Look at what Dr. Cornel West is saying about the Ukraine war now. Look at what all these people on the left saying about the Ukraine war. But you guys are getting that shit wrong? I don't fucking believe you. Now, before we get to Jamal Bowman, I'm covering this order for a reason. So I'm going to cover this first. Because I do not believe these NATO leftists are as ignorant as they claim they are. They are not as ignorant as they claim they are. Because ever since this conflict started, we saw Nazis literally with Nazi patches on, posing with guns, being part of the Ukrainian military. So as a principled socialist, communist, geopolitics aside, everything aside, we are supposed to be against arming Nazis on principle. Like Ukraine, Russia, it literally does not matter the situation. It literally does not matter who started the conflict. We talk about the Maidan coup and all this shit, but and we all understand that Russia will provoke. But I will go the next step. Even if Russia wasn't provoked, we do not ever, as leftists, communists, and socialists, you mean the people who historically defeated the Nazis, we never, ever fund Nazis. Ever. No matter what the fuck is going on. Even if Russia started that shit on their own. Even if there was no Maidan coup. You can be neutral, but you never support arming Nazis. That's where I stand. Because I know my goddamn history. And because I'm a black man who their ideology is direct opposition toward. They are direct into my life. The Azov Battalion and the neo-Nazis in Ukraine are neo-Nazis, but they're not. Because they are Nazis who believe in one nation, one state, one people, and they are willing to engage in political violence to accomplish that. Nazism. Right? So the point of them being a Nazi was so obvious. Even though people try to deny it, people try to deny it the best they can. But we kept catching these Nazis in 4K. Yeah, New York Times, Corey Media, like, well, come on, man, there's no Nazis in Ukraine. You guys are there's only like 100 Nazis in Ukraine. So despite the narrative that there's only like 100, 1,000 Nazis in Ukraine, why do we keep catching the Nazis in pictures if there's only a few of them? What are the chances that we have so many pictures of these Nazis? You had Zelensky, who had a bodyguard who had Nazi that had Swastika insignia on it. So Zelensky, you the president, and you couldn't pick someone who's not a Nazi, but you guys tell me Nazism isn't a problem in Ukraine. You got streets named after Stefan Bandera, a holiday after Stefan Bandera, but progressives in the NATO left is like, come on, you guys are repeating Putin talking points about Nazis in Ukraine. And I promise you that what Jamal Bowman thinks. Once again, these things are connected, believe it or not.
Like we can go back to the laws that we had took away. That way we won't get caught breaking them. Like one of them was us not funding Nazis. When we pulled back on that law, they was getting ready to throw a coup in Ukraine at the time. So, like you say, it's all connected. And like, one thing we gotta, as leftists and whatnot, or communists, one thing that we really got to get out of our vocabulary and whatnot is invasion. The invasion of Ukraine. There was no invasion. There was no. These people were called upon for many months and were ignored. People died. Thousands of people died. This is a reaction to people's actions, to them shelling and bombing those kids and those playgrounds and those schools and those hospitals. There was no invasion, but we have to make it look as bad as possible, right? Just like we have to sell. We was gonna bomb Florida to sell a war on Cuba. I'm pretty sure they would make it look as bad as possible to make you guys not only sell this war, but take up for Nazis. Because I have seen people say, yes, there are only a small handful of Nazis that we are funding. There's only like 2% of Nazis that we're funding. Like, no, you're funding Nazis. And you're not about to sit here and tell me, as a black man in America, where, there are a majority whites and a good group of y'all are fucking Nazis or straight up white, right-wing, white supremacists, that there isn't another problem like that in another European country? Really? Where there's almost no fucking other colored people there? You telling me there's no white supremacy problems out there? No, I'm not that dumb. I ain't finished school, but I ain't that fucking dumb.
I usually don't pay attention to many troll comments, but I'm only addressing this for educational reasons. You know Hitler banned workers from organizing, right? Does that sound like a socialist to you? Does that sound like a socialist?
No, I've heard this a million times. This is for people who don't know socialism, like the AOC and them. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, you won, you beat me with that comment." You get what I'm saying? Like if you don't really know, but when you see it, it's like
they banned socialists, attacked communists, and was openly hostile to left beliefs. But right-wingers believe that Hitler was a socialist. The dumbest motherfucking people. Jameson, the dumbest motherfucker in the comments. And I usually don't address it, but I'm only telling this you guys for education reasons. If you ever hear dumbass people say this, Hitler banned workers from organizing. He went after socialists and communists. What kind of socialist does that? Capitalists and shambles. They got to make up stupid bullshit to justify why they run an economy that crashes every 5 day year, so they got to make up a bunch of bullshit to scare people about socialism. Anyway, that's a side point. I just had to address that just for, this is another good comment. Damn, we comments moving fast as hell. This is a good comment to wrap that little mini segment up, and I only address it just for educational purposes, right? So violence, that pro tip for people who don't know how to address that. For people who stumble when they hear people say Hitler is socialist, I want you guys to know how to handle that. Like, you literally laugh at them in the face. Literally laugh at them, tell them what Hitler actually fucking did. And like Violence said, you can't be a fascist and socialist too. The two ideologies literally directly conflict with each other. But let's get back to the story. I just wanted to do that little quick educational part. Oh wait, did the New York Times article, could we talking about Nazis in Ukraine? Also, Ukraine, ran by Nazis, banned socialist parties. So if Hitler was a socialist, you'd think that Stefan Bandera in Ukraine will love socialism. Yeah, they will mandate that shit in schools, everything. But Hitler was a Nazi, and he was a socialist apparently. He's so fucking stupid. I can't believe people have thoughts and they don't even think about it. But anyway, let's move on. This is the New York Times article. So what I was saying earlier before we got kind of sidetracked was in order to justify, this is the thesis of what I was saying. In order to justify their support for the Ukraine war, what do leftists must do? If you're a leftist and you support NATO in the Ukraine war, you must just bullshit people and you got to lie about the fact that they're Nazis in Ukraine. We're not funding Nazis in Ukraine. Yeah, they're far right. That's what people start saying. They're far right. Nigga, there's a difference between being far right and a Nazi. There's a clear difference, and they've been trying to muddy the water since then. Now, that after that long prefix that leads me to the story, to the point where these Nazis have been called on 4K so many times that the New York Times is forced to address it. And you guys can share your theories as well. But I think there's literally only one reason they printed the story. When I first read the story, I was surprised. But anyway, I'll get to that. I'll read it first. Then I'll get to that. New York Times says, the decision by some Ukrainian soldiers to wear patches with Nazi icons threatens to reinforce Russian propaganda used to justify the invasion. It also could give symbols mainstream life after West's decades-long efforts to eliminate them. Now, the funniest thing about this is how they say Nazis in Ukraine representing their Nazism in Ukraine reinforce Russian propaganda that there are Nazis in Ukraine. How dare Nazis existing in Ukraine prove the Russians correct? So when you see this story actually backs up and exposes the NATO left in a way, because it exposes that there actually are Nazis in Ukraine. So why do they print this? And you guys can chime in on this as well. But I think they print this because they're trying to tell the Ukrainians to chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
You just say, guys, we're trying to lie to people and say that you guys are not Nazis. You are ruining it by having Nazi shit. Can you guys pipe it down? And they do not. You want to know why they do not? There's a video of a Nazi famously praising and talking about how the West is now supporting their Nazi imperialist ambitions, right? So if you're a Nazi and you truly believe in that shit, like imagine Rome, some motherfucker was like, "Hey Rome, I know you like this communism shit, but hey, drop the flag, drop the love." What would you say? What would you say? What would you say if I was like, Rome, I know we start RBN, but we trying to legitimize ourselves. I can't have you do Nazi shit. What would you say to me, Rome, if I tell you? I mean, communist shit. And what would you say to me, Rome?
Like, what the hell? No, I'll be louder.
Then you will cut me out on the timeline, and I will get raged out, and I would deserve it. Now, and that's the reaction Ukrainian Nazis had. Nigga, they are real Nazis. They believe that shit, son. When the West come and say higher Nazi shit, they're like, nah, nigga, we are on a conquest. We are purging the Russian filth. We are purging the Romani filth. This is our goal. This is life. Of course, we're not going to hide our patches. So after that, they now have to write these articles so hopefully you get to Ukraine and higher ups because they follow U.S. media. That's my theory. And now here's Aaron Mate. I want to get his taken out past you. And then this is just my preface to the Jamal Bowman part because these things obviously relate. Because Jamal Bowman, part of NATO left, that's like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
That guy is terrible.
So the New York Times admitting that Nazis are in Ukraine, but Jamal Bowman, a member of fucking Congress who gets briefings. You gotta know every congressperson get briefings. So he gets briefings, but you want to pretend he don't know what the fuck is going on? The point is he does. And they are Nazi collaborators because they know they're funding Nazis and they continue to fund Nazis. So I'm telling you guys, let's bring the term back. You're a Nazi collaborator. Okay? So here's Aaron Mate with a brilliant point. United States liberals, which Jamal Bowman is one of them, are currently in Ben Dixon. Never forget, we just did a second on Ben.
Yeah, we did that.
The Ukraine war. You want to know who else is for the Ukraine war? Nina Turner. In her calls. Remember that? Remember the one time we broke down Nina Turner's show? And they're like, yeah, I know. We actually support the Ukraine invasion. Like they had to say that. So if you're a Democrat and you're black, you have the white supremacists in the Democratic Party say you Negroes better stay in line and better not get in our way of our white supremacy. And they say, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. That's what Ben Dixon, Nina Turner, and their people do. But anyway, let me continue Aaron's tweet because he's talking about them too, whether he knows it or not. Whether he knows it or not, he's talking about Nina Turner, he's talking about Ben Dixon, he's talking about Jamal Bowman. Feel free to interrupt, guys. I can't see your guys' barbecues. Feel free to interrupt. Aaron Mate says, U.S. liberals are currently the world's number one apologist for Nazis. And it's not even close. He said the U.S. liberal is the number one apologist for Nazis, and that includes the guy who's about to show up next. He also says, and this is actually a great point that I didn't notice until I read his tweet, here the New York Times grudgingly acknowledges that Ukraine Nazi problem, but it's not a problem because they're Nazis. It's a problem because it reinforced Russian propaganda. So the New York Times is not like, oh my God, what's up with all these Nazis over here? Should we be funding Nazis? Why are we backing up Nazis? That's not their position. They're like, yeah, we know you're Nazi. Can you do a better job at hiding the fact that you're Nazi? We're trying to tell a war here.
And if you reinforce, if in the definition of, or what, there's a phrase when you say reinforcing propaganda, that means the truth. That's all that is. Reinforcing propaganda means truth. So these symbols are reinforcing the propaganda supposedly that Russia's putting out there. That it's just truth. That's all it is. I love that that NAFO dog. That NAFO dog is hilarious to me. Go ahead.
Romy takes
I feel like I would not. I we all are trolls in some way. We troll, but I wouldn't take it as far as joining the military and wearing a patch, and going to go kill people or get killed. Like that takes dedication to your craft of trolling. And I don't think you're going to find too many people out there just trying to prank. Because I remember it was a story that came out not too long ago that was like, oh, where they're just trying to scare the Russian army. And I'm like, no. These motherfuckers are Nazis. But that's all you're going to get is excuses and lies from these people because that's all they can give you. If they was to tell you straight up, like, look, we want to end up, overthrowing Russia. We need their resources. straight the fuck up. Like, this is what this is over. They have been moving east for a reason. NATO have been moving east for a reason, trying to put nukes closer and closer for a reason. Let's not act naive here. Like what we have done across the world yesterday, we won't do it today. You know, they will love a regime change on Russia, and it gets them closer to who? They get that power from Russia. Shit, they damn near unstoppable. They right next door to China, all that. They already in their oceans or whatnot. Saying, oh well, they're heading towards our Navy ship. Well, get the fuck on. That's what they telling you. Get the fuck on. But right, we are here to steal resources. This is what it's all about. They need to sell this war for the people to feel better about murdering thousands and thousands of people with their tax dollars.
Yep. So now we're trying to get to the fun part, the Jamal Bowman video. I wanted to leave with that one first because his knowledge is readily available. It's to the point where the New York Times, the biggest propaganda rag, up there with the Washington Post and many others similar stature, right? Even they have to acknowledge that Nazis in Ukraine. They don't care about it. They just have to acknowledge the fact that they exist.